Episode 1, Mr. Bean. Directed by John Howard Davies. Written by Ben Elton, Richard Curtis, and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date, 1st of January 1990. Mr. Bean attends a mathematics exam, where he tries to copy from a student, Paul Bowen, under the nose of invigilator Rudolph Walker. Afterwards, he surreptitiously changes into his swimming trunks so as not to be noticed by someone sitting nearby at a bench, Roger Sloman, and later struggles to stay awake during a church service and obnoxiously sings the refrain of the hymn, "All Creatures of Our God and King," much to the annoyance of the man sitting next to him, Mr. Sprout, Richard Briers. Episode 2, The Return of Mr. Bean. Directed by John Howard Davies, written by Richard Curtis, Robert Driscoll, and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date, 5th of November, 1990. Mr. Bean tries out his new American Express credit card at a department store. He visits a fancy restaurant for his birthday and is served an unwanted dish, leading him to try a variety of strategies to avoid eating it, and then has an unfortunate altercation with Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Episode 3, The Curse of Mr. Bean. Directed by John Howard Davies, written by Richard Curtis, Robin Driscoll, and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date, 1st of January, 1991. Mr. Bean visits the local swimming pool, where he realizes that he is scared of heights after climbing to the top of the diving board, tries to find a way to leave the car park without paying, makes a sandwich in the park sitting next to a man, Angus Deaton, jumps a traffic light in his car by getting out and pushing it, and then joins his girlfriend, Matilda Ziegler, to watch a horror film at the cinema. Episode 4, Mr. Bean Goes to Town. Directed by Paul Weiland and John Birkin. Written by Richard Curtis, Robin Driscoll, and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date, 15th of October, 1991. Bean buys a new portable television, but has difficulty getting good reception. At the park, he has his camera stolen, and later finds a unique way of identifying the culprit, Nick Hancock. After leaving his shoe on top of a car, Bean hops around town to retrieve it, and later takes his girlfriend to see a magic show and go clubbing in one night. Episode 5, The Trouble with Mr. Bean. Directed by Paul Weiland and John Birkin. Written by Richard Curtis, Robin Driscoll, and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date, 1st of January, 1992. Bean wakes up late for his dental appointment, forcing him to drive to the clinic while getting dressed and brushing his teeth. At the clinic, his appointment progresses badly after he accidentally sedates the dentist, Richard Wilson, forcing him to finish the dental procedure himself. He then heads to the park to have a peaceful picnic by himself, but is then attacked by wasps. Episode 6, Mr. Bean Rides Again. Directed by Paul Weiland and John Birkin. Written by Richard Curtis, Robin Driscoll, and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date, 17th of February, 1992. On his way to post a letter, Bean attempts to save a man suffering from a heart attack, but when the ambulance arrives, Bean uses it to jumpstart his Mini's dead battery, inadvertently disabling the ambulance. After accidentally getting himself locked inside a pillar box while posting his letter, Bean packs for a holiday, suffers from a noisy, laughing man, Stephen Frost, during a train ride, and then attempts to entertain a sick boy on a plane. Episode 7, Merry Christmas, Mr. Bean. Directed by John Birkin. Written by Richard Curtis, Robin Driscoll, and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date 29th of December 1992. On Christmas Eve, Bean heads to town to do Christmas shopping, during which he plays with the nativity scene at Harrods and later inadvertently conducts a Salvation Army band at the town market. On Christmas Day, he attempts to cook a turkey, during which he accidentally gets his head stuck inside of it, and later relaxes for a reserved Christmas meal with his girlfriend. Episode 8, Mr. Bean in Room 426. Directed by Paul Wayland. Written by Robin Driscoll and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date 17th of February 1993. Bean treats himself to a bank holiday weekend at the Queen's Hotel, where he seeks competition with his hotel neighbour involving accommodation and dining. After he eats some spoiled oysters for dinner, by accident, he has a nightmare about them and his neighbour. With his stomach turning, he goes outside of his room naked to complain to his other neighbour, who is playing very loud music, but accidentally gets himself locked out, prompting him to try sneaking back into his room without being seen. Guest star Danny LaRue. Episode 9, Do It Yourself, Mr. Bean. Directed by John Birkin. Written by Robin Driscoll and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date 10th of January 1994. On New Year's Eve 1993, Bean hosts his very own party with his best friends Rupert and Herbert, but it isn't long before his guests discover that there is more fun at the party next door, and trick Bean into letting them go. The following morning, on New Year's Day, Bean buys some new tools and a large recliner armchair at the January sales of a department store, and has a unique way of driving them home, then tries painting his flat himself and starts off the new year with a bang. Episode 10, Mind the Baby, Mr. Bean. Directed by Paul Wayland. Written by Robin Driscoll and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date 25th of April 1994. On his way to the South Sea Fun Fair, Bean accidentally becomes lumbered with a baby boy with no idea of how or where he came from, forcing him to try having fun at the fair with the baby. Throughout the day, the baby manages to survive Bean's unique style of mishaps before eventually being reunited with his mother. Episode 11, Back to School, Mr. Bean. Directed by John Birkin. Written by Robert Driscoll and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date 26th of October 1994. Bean attends an open day of a local school where he unleashes his usual brand of chaos in the various classes he visits. Afterwards, Bean's day soon takes a somber turn when he finds that his Mini isn't parked where he left it, and it is crushed by an army tank during the demonstration. Episode 12, Tee Off, Mr. Bean. Directed by John Birkin. Written by Robin Driscoll and Rowan Atkinson. Original air date 20th of September 1995. After causing chaos at the town laundrette while having his laundry cleaned, Bean tries his hand at mini-golf, but after being told by the course's owner that he can only touch the ball with the club and not with his hands, Bean's poor aim leads him on an elaborate tour around town before ultimately returning to the course several hours later with a final score of 3,427 strokes. The doctor prescribes his medicine, but I would rather have a bar of chocolate. The doctor prescribes his medicine, but I would rather have a bar of chocolate. The doctor prescribes his medicine, but I would rather have a bar of chocolate.